Right. So after my getting a metering data, so now I'm just going to moving into evaluation criteria. Right. So for that purpose, I'm just having different types of varieties of evaluation criteria. Right before into that. So once we just got a meter, we just purchased it from a market. At which definitely we need to, what could I say? We need to fix it in a particular node point in our industry, right? So definitely that should be a perfect location, right? So எல்லா meter நாம் fix பண்ண முடியாது. So we need to take a survey and we need to find a exact location where it's required that position, right? So on the point I need to definitely I need to install meter in the sense definitely could install. So that was most important thing. So there's a point where actually we could able to save electricity energy, for example, electricity energy consumption. We need to find out that particular location and we need definitely we need to fix it on that particular part, right? And we're just going to go with it. We need to find out a different department of in our industry. So we need to find out exactly where actually energy is now consuming in a particular department. So we need to identify, right, the same thing. So which building is could be metered effectively. That's why we need to identify the particular section of your industry. We need to also find out. So the payback period will be very long. So in metering part, right? So payback it will be around. It will be started about after 10 years only. Like why? And it will be this much longer time, right? Because meter is not directly. It's not going to be what could I say? It's not going to be directly cut off your wastage of electricity energy. I already told that it's going to give you the way of route, right? So it's going to help you out that. So this all the energy is now consumed. அப்படிங்கிற ஒரு இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் தான் உங்களுக்கு ஷோ பண்ணும். By having that metering data only, we're just going to take action. So that's not the most important thing. So by taking action against on metering data, so we are just having a data in our hand. So we could able to have post processing, right? So which date, which time the machine is now run to that much time, that much power, it consumed that much high energy, and we need to have a look back, right? So what actually it's now happened that day, that time. And once we just got a perfect data and we're just going to have analysis, if a productive output is not there in the sense we need to rectify it, right? So through this only we could able to reduce electricity cost. So that's why it took much time, right? So this is the time it will be somewhat very high payback period, right? And once we're just going to find a particular location of your buildings, now we're just going to implementation of meters, right? So the meters based upon it should be your company goal, right? If you're just going to focus on electricity energy in the sense, we're just going to focus on my demand meter and perfect meter, heavy AR metering, and energy consumption metering. For example, I'm just going to set a electricity energy consumption, right? So if you're just going to fix water in the sense, we need to fix it, some meters about my boiler area and remaining areas, right, in our industries. So based upon your company goals only, I'm just going to purchase meter and just going to implement meters. And then and that also much important because meters also it will be a cost, right, while purchasing meters. And the design of meters how it should be, right? So design of our metering system how it should be required, right? Definitely it need to be satisfied, right? So once we're just going to purchase meter in the sense, definitely that meter minimum requirement it should be what could I say? It needs to be satisfied, right? For example, I'm just going to fix my kVA meter in the sense in my industry. So definitely it has some extra features like it needs to communicate with my mobile devices as a company supervisor. I'm just need to get a data at every instant of time. For that purpose, that kVA meter it should be somewhat it will be IoT based something, right? So it should be how the communication facilities, right? This are some extra features we need to have it based upon your company requirement. At least it needs to be, what could I say, minimum requirement or it needs to satisfy. And then define architecture, it will be it will be we couldn't as a customer we wouldn't able to change these things. The company manufacturer itself, that meter manufacturer company people itself, they're just going to fix it, right? So இதுல என்ன controller இருக்கணும், என்ன communication port இருக்கணும். So these are the things it will be designed by the meter manufacturer itself, right? So the same way, definitely, So if it's going to purchase meter in the sense, definitely needs to be run about 20 years old. The meter should be its working state, right? And the 20 years, the technology is going to be getting evolved much faster. Even though after, for example, I'm just going to now 2020. Now I'm just going to plan to my metering plan in my industry. If I'm just going to install meter in my industry in the sense, I just go to with that my beyond level. That's for example, 15 years. After 15 years, also my meter will stand right. It could withstand about my metering areas. So ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು meter choose for. That's what very important in my thing. So definitely it needs to help in my future also. So now over a year நம்ம meter வந்துட்டு நான் update பண்ண முடியாது, change பண்ண முடியாது. So for the purpose, I need to choose that particular fixed meters, right? So over 15 years how it needs to run, it needs to withstand in the market, right? So in a cost next year a new meter purchase it will be it will be very high cost also. So for that purpose, it needs to anticipate the future technology available product or choose. And then and development equipment specifications, right? So for example, if you're just going to update your metering system, so I'm not going to exactly replace my once we just installed the 2020 in the year of 2020 and 2025 I'm just going to update my meters. In the sense I'm just going to add extra features, right? In the sense, right? So communication part, right? So it could have meet out that equipment specification also. Basic hardware மாத்த போறதில்ல, extra accessories I'm going to fix it. அதுக்கு match ஆகிற மாதிரி we need to choose. So these are the things, these are the general things, right? So these are very important as well as general things while purchasing a meter. Definitely, this thing is now much more important, right? So I'm not going to frequently purchasing meters. I'm not going to frequently replacing meters in the sense it will be it will be very high cost. That's why it needs to withstand about minimum 15 years, right? While purchasing after that. So it will be much important point while installation or maybe it's purchasing time. We need to have this point right in our mind. And then performance validation and persistence. Once everything is not finished, meter could be purchased based upon my company goal and based upon my company review. Right, I'm just going to install metering system, and it's now currently it's now running. So now its meter is now fixed up, and we have just choose a particular node point in our industry where actually we need to fix it, and the meter is now getting running. So the LMA started. So right now I need to get a data. Right, so now I'm just going to measure data. That data should be accurate data, right? So for that purpose, the meter should be fully calibrated. So we need to have a full calibration meter and test பண்ணிருக்கணும். So definitely yearly once or 6 month once we need to what could say we need to calibrate and we need to test it with my it needs to reference with my reference meters. Then only it could have accurate data, right? So this will be very what could I say very important thing, right? So accurate data. So meter ஒன்று ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ணிட்டா கண்டிப்பா அது வந்துட்டு ஒரிஜினல் வேல்யூ ரீட் பண்ணுவாங்கிறது சொல்ல முடியாது. We need to compare with my reference meter, right? That's called calibration. So at least 6 months once or maybe yearly once I need to do a calibration on my meter. Then only I could able to get accurate data from meter. So that's a very important thing. So definitely once it got accurate data, then you could able to do analysis, right? And then the application of this data more correctly as well as this data is now it will be followed by my actions, right? So action against my goals. That's why data should be an accurate thing. And then the same thing, right? Again, it's now metering system is continues to operate effectively and reliably. So this is what thing that இது எப்படி ஆகும்னா calibration பண்ணறோம், calibration testing through we could able to do with it. And then we are having actually, for example, in my biggest MNC company, in the sense, for example, Hyundai car company, in the sense, it's now around 50 hectares, right? So that's a square feet area. It's a very biggest company. For example, I'm just going to fix my energy meter in the sense, definitely this metering data is now collected by some energy management people, right? So the data collection purpose, right? Definitely they will just go and they will just download those electrical meter data and they're just coming back into my office and they're just going to do analysis. For the purpose, we need to pay monthly salary who's them, right? So that's why we need to identify the funding resources for those persons, right? So definitely. So it will be one more. It will be under everything is now under the energy management team, right? If just some team is now running in the sense, definitely we need to pay for them also, right? In the form of salary, right? So and then, for example, special meter consideration in the sense, right? So in I just got a data from Google only, right? So data centers, right? So nowadays data centers like what could I say? We are just in olden days, na, pathina, we have what could I say? We have a number of hard disk in our home, right? So hereafter maybe we have to no need any our PC or laptop, right? So we could have our own file in a cloud, right? So let's call it OneDrive, Microsoft OneDrive, and we'll have Google, right? So we'll have a number of Amazon, right? We have a number of cloud-based systems will be there. So whatever the data we are just going to capture, or we are just going to have in our hand in the sense, which simply we are just going to send into cloud. So cloud now it's not exactly cloud. So cloud in the sense where my account is now right, so set by some third-party persons like Google in the sense they're just going to maintain your data in their drive, right? So you could access anywhere in this world with the help of internet. So no need to carry any PC, laptop, right? Whatever maybe. So that's why it's called data centers. They're just going to maintain your data on their own servers, right? Then once you just got internet connection in IP address, you could able to access those data frequently. So the main thing is that you need an internet connection. That's all. Right, so the same thing in our industry, right? So for example, as energy management people in biggest company it's no issues in varieties of companies. For example, Tata for bigger in the Tata steel industry, they're just having around all over the world. That's, for example, I'm stealing, right, all over the world they're just having their own branch manufacturing plant, right? So in every data is now going to be getting collected from a central server station, right? Each and every meter data in every branch. In one branch will be Hyderabad, one branch in Chennai, one branch in Bangalore, one branch in Delhi, Mumbai, right? So they're having their own plant in all over the world, right? So for a central monitoring purpose, they're just going to collecting entire data, for example, right? So huge data is now going to be getting collected. So this is what a very important thing, right? So while just going to install meter, definitely the system, the meter is going to be continuously monitoring data, and continuously it's going to be recorded. And for example, if you're just going with the IoT based things, sense every meter is not going to be getting data at any interval of time, and these data need to be stored in somewhere, right? So that's why most important thing, right? So we could have the two things. So we could have our own inside industry server, or maybe we could able to upload into the a cloud server. So the for that purpose, so first year na install பண்றேன், no issues, and second year onwards, third year onwards, right? I need to increase my server database space, right? Definitely day by day, I'm just getting a data from meters. Definitely, I need to store it in my hardware. Definitely, my hard disk space, which I'm going to day by day, I need to increase my storage devices, right? So for that purpose also, this is called simply, I'm just going to highlight to this point, expanding facility automation and equipment upgrade. I told that equipment upgrade. We need to increase our hard disk space. For that purpose, we need to purchase new type of hard disk. Then definitely it will be money, right? So again, we need to invest money on my storage devices in terms of data. As well as once you just got a more data, a more hard disk, more CPU, definitely you need to use HVAC system in our data center. HVAC, heating and cooling air system, it will be definitely needed, right? It's now, but biggest company it's an issue, right? Small company is not issue. And one more thing, this is called small, that is called small point. This is called special metering consideration, right? So already we have discussed about combined heat and power system, right? So in our many industries, they're just now looking for a CHP system on their own industry inside. So this is called on-site power generation. We simply call it as combined heat and power. So once, what could I say? We are just utilized CHP power in the sense for after my utilizing. So if there any extra power if you're having from a CHP, definitely could be able to export into my utility grid. Right? Already we have discussed. So if you are able to generate excess power from CHP and could able to export into grid, through electrical interconnection. So those things is called microgrid, right? So smart grid system. So அப்ப நான் எவ்வளவு பவர் எக்ஸ்போர்ட் பண்றேன் அப்படிங்கிற டேட்டாவை ஐ நீட் டு மானிட்டர், ரைட்? ஸோ தோஸ் திங்ஸ் ஆல்சோ வெரி இம்பார்ட்டன்ட். That's why here also metering is also important, right? So these are the things we people already discussed. But anyway, in metering la பேசுறப்ப this point is also getting included, right? So the amount of power which is being generated, right? So from the CHP is also it needs to be monitored, right? So then only you could be able to have a bill verification against my export data, right? So this is the one more point. This is called special metering consideration. And next point and last one, I guess, right? So about 6 point we have first and metering economics. So particularly, what should be the metering economics? எப்படி வரும் மீட்டரிங்கோட காஸ்ட் எப்படி மீட்டரிங் மீட்டர் மட்டும் நம்ம வாங்க போறது இல்லை, நல்லா வாட்ச் பண்ணி பாருங்க. ஸோ நம்ம மீட்டர்னா மீட்டர் மட்டும் வாங்க போறதில்ல. ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் இன் ஒரு ஹோம் நீங்க ஒரு வீட்ல லேம்ப் ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்றீங்கன்னா we are not going to purchase lamp itself, right? We need to purchase fixtures also. That is called a fixture. Or tube வாங்குறீங்கன்னா that will be called a putty, right? So there will be a metal part is now it's holding your tube light, right? It's called one more that's fixture. That's called in our local language we call as putty, and it will be in English it will be called as fixtures. So the fixtures we are just going to hold our lamp, right? It's going to fix the lamp. And definitely it needs electronic ballast or maybe a copper ballast. It needs a starter. So these are some external accessories which will be there, right? So for the same thing in metering, na meter மட்டும் வாங்க போறோம்னா meter மட்டும் வாங்க போறதுல we need to focus on different things, right? So we'll see one by one. So actually meters which will make a sense for where we are just going to apply. That's my important thing, right? The meters will be cost effective and it will be have such simple payback period. So it will be should be there. So metering cost. So it variedly number of reasons, right? So என்னென்ன இருக்குன்னு பார்க்கலாம். So based upon my meter equipment specification and capabilities. So for example, I am just having a 1100 mobile phone. So you could only send a text message or maybe you could have only audio communication, right? That's called a 2G communication, right? So it will be cost, it will be around 4,000 rupees. For example, I'm having a 5G smartphone, right? It could have video call, we could have GPRS, we could have a camera, you could have a micro, what could I say? We have a number of facilities, right? So that was one more based upon that equipment specification capabilities, that meter cost is also going to be very high, right? So that's one more thing. And existing infrastructures. So for example, in our company, we didn't have any types of meter. Previously, we didn't have any types of meter in the sense we need to purchase more number of meters. That would also it will be give you more cost. If you are just having some meters in our industry in the sense while taking survey itself, we could be able to identify those meters, right? So அப்படிங்கிறப்ப we could able to reduce the existing cost. If you are while taking a survey in our industry, if we didn't have any types of meter, definitely it will be a high cost, right? And site specific design condition, right? Meter வந்துட்டு நான் what could I say? எல்லா இடத்துலயும் fix பண்ண முடியாது. Fix பண்ணாலும் I need to give a protection from a thermal, from a temperature, from rain and dust. We need to give you a site protection. So that's why a specific site condition based upon condition, we need to give extra enclosures, right? So to that meters. And local cost factors, right? So where actually meters is going to be fixed. ஒரு மீட்டர் இன்னொரு மீட்டருக்கு எவ்வளவு டிஸ்டன்ஸ் இருக்கு, ஸோ இந்த மீட்டர் அந்த மீட்டர் ஹெல்ப் பண்ணுமா இல்லை இதே மீட்டர் டேக் பண்ணுறது, லோக்கல் ஃபேக்டர்ஸ், ரைட்? பேஸ்ட் அப்பான் கம்பெனி வைல் இன்ஸ்டாலிங் இட் செல்ஃப் இட் இஸ் கோயிங் டு ஏபிள் டு ஃபைண்ட் அவுட். So these are some meter economics, right? So metering cost என்னென்ன வரும்? So now capital cost, labor cost, recurring cost. We'll see one by one. It's very easy to understand, right? Capital cost in the sense, right? So metering capital cost is nothing but while purchasing, right? So what are the materials is required அப்படிங்கிற data. So very first thing is the metering cost. For example, this is the one type of energy meter, kWh, right? Single phase energy meter, 5 to 30 ampere single phase meter, two-wire system, right? And we need auxiliary devices, right? So this energy meter definitely needs a CT, right? So definitely this meter definitely needs CT to measure current, right? So CT as well as PT. So nowadays, right, so energy meters is inbuilt CT and PT will be there. So while industry speaking, right, so definitely we need to purchase separately, right? So that's why CT is also to be cost and PT is also be it will be view cost, right, in separate while speaking. And definitely, so For example, energy supplier in TNEB at Tangent Go, what actually they are just going to provide, only they are just going to fix this type of meter in our home or industry. And this is one more port, communication port. So after 30 days, once they're just going to getting a download data from this communication port from a microcontroller which is available over here, and with my communication devices. Whereas I'm just going to individually, I'm just going to individually fix my industry. So definitely I need communication module, right? So நீங்க Tangent பார்த்தீங்கன்னா அவங்க மீட்டர் மாதிரி தான் ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ணுவாங்க. They are just going to bring one more handheld devices which is going to be getting data from this meter. But in my industry, I'm just going to install meters in my own industry, in the sense I need to purchase that handheld devices, right? That is a handheld reader communicator, or maybe a telephone modem, or a wireless communication, right? So or it will have a DC, that is called a superficial data acquisition system, right? So we need a communication port, we need a communication cable, right? It will be also cost, right? So for example, energy supply இருக்கு, no issues. பட் நான் ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்றேன் அப்படின்னா இண்டஸ்ட்ரியில, என்னோட இண்டஸ்ட்ரி நான் ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்றேன், ஐ நீட் டு கெட் அ டேட்டா டெஃபினெட்லி, ரைட்? ஸோ அது வயர்லெஸ்ல இருக்கலாம், வயர்டா இருக்கலாம். அப்படிங்கிறப்ப அதுக்கு நான் அதுக்கான காம்பனண்ட் ஐ நீட் டு பர்ச்சேஸ், ரைட்? ஸோ இட் வில் ஆல்சோ காஸ்ட். திஸ் ஆல் தி வெரி called capital cost while purchasing itself. What are the things we are going to purchasing itself? So this all the thing is now called capital cost. This is called installment, right? So this is called installation cost, not installation exactly. Install பண்றதுக்கு முன்னாடி what we are just going to purchase, right? So என்ன purchase பண்றோமோ அது, this is called capital cost, right? Capital in the sense, initially we are just going to spending, right? So this is what investment, like investment, right? We are just going to fix it. So these are the some very important thing while they're just going to purchasing meters. And while what could I say? We're just going to have we're just going to have around 15 years in our meter fixed pantana 15 years ago. I need to be only, I'm just going to use only, I'm not going to change my this meter. Definitely for the purpose I need to focus on this communication model. So better we could go with that SCADA and wireless, right? So SCADA is nowadays in a wired SCADA, but it's in the under construction of wireless is now coming, right? So now we could go with it wireless the communication, we could go with it, right? And then labor cost. Once we just purchased communication module, CT, PT, transformer, communication cables, right? So definitely we need some of the crew members. They're just going to come into our industry. This is called electricians, right? So they're just going to wire everything and they're just going to connect it. It's definitely they will need a plan, right? So they will need a plan and a preparation time, and they need to put a layout, cable layout, trenching, right? So every electrical work, right? So it needs to be done with the help of human members, that's called electricians, right? So definitely it will take much time, and it needs a testing thing, so trial and error testing, and we'll have inspection, and we'll have a initial demo, right? So this all the thing is now going to be happen. So it will take much time, and as well as it, because it needs a plan where actually wires should be there, and where actually meter is going to be connected it, and where the meter is going to be fixed it, wall or vertical, horizontal, table, say, right? So we need to, based upon that civil construction or building, based upon that the meter is going to be fixed and wire is going to be laid out, right? So underground or ceiling type of wiring is need to be based upon my civil construction of a particular building. Definitely for the purpose we need to pay money, right? So for that crew, right, who they're just going to fix those entire circuits, right? And then recurring cost. One, these are the capital cost. It's not going to be changing anyway, right? So it will be a what could I say, investment cost. So once we're just purchasing itself, it's spending. So this is not going to be changed at anymore. And labor cost, once install பண்ணிட்டோம்னா அப்ப என்ன மணி ஸ்பெண்ட் ஆகுதோ அந்த அமௌண்ட் மட்டும் தான் ஸ்பெண்ட் பண்ண போறோம். ரிமைனிங் காஸ்ட் எதுவும் கிடையாது. But recurring cost, it will be changing by frequently, right? So recurring cost is nothing but support. It's going to be support the operation, right? So supporting operation in the sense each and every time, every hour, every day, every month the meter is going to be running, right? So upon the meter on the two work ஆகணும், that's called calibration, testing, maintenance, right? So இதனை once நான் ஒரு மீட்டர் வாங்கிட்டு ஃபிக்ஸ் பண்ண மட்டும் போதாது. I need to, what could I say, monitor continuous meter, monitor பண்ணும், meter கரெக்டா ஒரு கலதான் செக் பண்ணும். That's why it needs minimum its cost, right? That's called, this called recurring cost. That's called a monthly communication fees, for example. These fees, right? So இதெல்லாம் நீங்க எங்க வரும் அப்படின்னா, எனர்ஜி மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் ஆடிட்டிங் பீப்புள் இருக்காங்களா இண்டஸ்ட்ரியில, அவங்களுக்கு மந்த்லி சேலரி கொடுப்போம் இல்லையா, அந்த மணில சேர்ந்துரும், ரைட்? மந்த்லி சேலரியில கொடுக்குறோம் அந்த சேலரி கலந்துரும், ரைட்? பட் indirectly speaking, that money is now in the form of data collection, right? So data collection, and based upon my what could I say, that those people, right? So they're just going to uh, they're just doing their work, right? So and the people என்ன பண்ணுவாங்க, audit பண்ண போறாங்க. They're just going to frequently visit meters and getting a data and doing analysis, right? This is the back end process, right? So regular basis data collect பண்றாங்க and just finding a analysis report and just going to submit into that report into chief engineer, right, in an industry. These are called those things, right? So operation and maintenance, right? Definitely this periodic calibration and testing is much more important, right? So then only could have accurate reading data, right? That's more a very important thing. This also is called very important. By doing calibration testing only, you could able to read a highly accurate data. From that accurate data only, we could have an analysis report, and do that only could able to take action against it. So these are the very important these 6 steps to be considered while metering planning. And in meter saving potential, this is a last overall what could I say, conclusion, right, about these things. So installation of meters, right? So installation of meters, it will be 0 to 2 or 2. It's not exactly right thing. It will be approximately, right? So it will be a 0 to 2% of initial impact, but it's not going to be persist savings, right? It will be a thing. How it will be going to be helpful, right? So on this thing, for example, I'm just meter install பண்ணா மட்டுமே, already I just keep on telling like that. So நீங்க meter install பண்ணா மட்டுமே electricity save பண்ண முடியாது, right? So how we could able to save electricity in the sense, right? We'll see step by step. அதை நம்ம சொல்லிட்டே இருக்கோம். So we're just going to bill allocation, right? So we're just going to, once we just install meter, definitely we'll have a data, and the data where we could able to have analysis. That's told that you could have what could I say, energy awareness, right? So from the electricity meter data, right? So data, for example, last month electricity bill we have just paid about 1,200 other cents. In this current event, if you just have an electricity bill around 2,000, so we'll have a quick recall, right? How it happened actually this month 2,000, and we'll have a quick recall about. So what will be the previous month data அப்படின்னு நம்ம செக் பண்ணுவோம். அப்பதான் we'll have that awareness, right? Okay, this month we have spent about this much energy. Okay, what actually we have spent it, we have just going to cross check it. So okay, this month is now fully festival day, that's why we have just run many motors and lighting system in our home. So on the quick on the awareness இருக்கு இல்லையா, that awareness you could able to create from that meter data, right? Once he got awareness, definitely could able to identify that particular time of operation என்ன machine ஓடி இருக்குன்னு we could able to find, and we could able to cross verify it. அது ப்ராடக்டிவான மிஷின் ரன் ஆயிருக்கா அந்த டைம்ல செக் பண்ணிக்க முடியும். That's why this is called building tune up rate and load management. So right, so these are the thing from a metering system. So from metering data only we could have building tune up and load management. That is called you could able to identify the maintenance improvement. You could able to increase your efficiency of your application of your machines process, right? So you could able to go with it. And in ongoing commissioning feature என்ன பண்ண முடியும், so 15 to 45% of we could have awareness. So this is, I'm telling like that, keep on telling that once you just install meter, definitely you could have awareness on your energies consumptions. So அந்த எனர்ஜி கன்சப்ஷன் வச்சுட்டு தான் என்ன பண்றோம், அந்த டேட்டா வச்சுட்டு தான் அவேர்னஸ் வச்சுட்டு தான் என்ன பண்ண போறோம், we're just going to take action against on that particular energy consumption data, right? So these are the overall meter saving potential, right? So mainly we are just creating awareness on energy consumption, right? So once you just got energy awareness, definitely we'll look back into my how actually energy spent it and where actually spent it, whether it's now productive output or non-productive output or waste energy and machine ஓடி இருக்கான்னு பார்த்துட்டு அதை we are just going to cut it down. So through only you could able to reduce electricity cost. For example, I'm telling electricity the same way, water energy, steam energy, coal energy, everything, right? So these are final metering saving potential, right? We'll straight away moving into some metering devices. For example, I'm not going to much into detail into what could I say measuring devices. Already people studied about a number of sensors in my M&A subject. But anyway, I'm just going to recall some important measuring devices, right? Like instrument transformers, right? So this is also a very important thing in energy management, right? So not in small things, right? So I'm just going to look back once again. So anyway, I'm just going to once again show our syllabus. Then you could easily have a quick recall about how we're just moving. We're actually moving. அப்படிங்கிறது உங்களுக்கு தெரியும் இல்லையா? Syllabus பார்த்ததா தெரியும். That's why I'm just going to move with my own more screen. Then only we'll have a clear idea where actually we are moving and which syllabus we are studying. Right. So once again, just going to share one more tab. What are the things we have crossed and what are the things we are just going to move. So I think my screen is getting visible, right? So we have started about metering for energy management and why is metering is needed அப்படின்னு பார்த்தோம். And கொஞ்சம் in detail ஆவே பார்த்தோம் metering of energy management and units of measured. So what are the units of measure we are going to see அந்த மாதிரி பார்த்தோம். And utility meters we have started, and in the utility meters we have discussed about energy meter as well as demand meters, right? And metering system we have just discussed about the entire thing, right? So why metering, metering plan, metering process, right? So we have crossed a number of things, and now we're just going to move with that instrumented transformer, current transformer, and bordons in instrumented transformer. And once it's we just finished instrument transformer, we're just going to move into solid state meters. And these are the things, right? So ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲ solid state meter it will be a very introduction parts. And after that, metering location versus requirement. Once it's finished, we'll have important topics, right? So it will be useful topic in our future also. Metering technique and practical example, and economic model, time value money, utility rate, and utility monitoring and control system, and demand and control technique, load management. In my point of view, these four things will be very important: metering technique and examples, and load management. These are the four topics is much important in module 3, right? So I'm not talking about getting marks, right, as well as in industry itself in the future, right? So definitely while just going to work in industry, in the sense these four topics is much more important: demand control technique, utility monitoring system, and metering techniques. This four is now much more important, right, in our future. So one second. Now I'm just going to switch into my PPT. I'm just going to give you a quick recall about instrument transformers. So anyone just give me some idea about transformers? Already people you people are in final year, right? So anyone just give me what is meant by transformer? So the question I could it will be very easier to write. So what is a transformer? It's a static device. Yes, சொல்லுங்கப்பா.
It's used to step up or step down the voltage or current.
Yes, SLS current. Okay. It will be actually it's a common definition is nothing but it will be a static device. It's going to be a transform your power from one place to another place, right? So without a transformer, we couldn't able to transmit the electrical power from over a longer distance. We couldn't able to send it, right? But we could able to send up electrical power through electrical conductor, no issues. But the losses will be very high, right? So for avoiding these power losses while transmitting, definitely we need a transformation, right? So in the form of voltage as well as current. That's why it's called, the transformation is nothing but step up step down in current as well as voltage. And that is what my இதுக்கு ஒரு in ஃபாரின்லாம் பாத்தீங்கன்னா transformer ஒரு சப்ஜெக்டாவே படிக்கிறாங்க, right? Individually, right? So very important thing, right? And what is now called instrument transformer. Now we are not going to discuss about transformer, but we are just going to discuss about instrument transformer. So instrument is nothing but it's like a tool, right? We are just going to measuring some what could I say purpose we are just going to use this transformer. So நம்ம இதுவரை பார்த்த டிரான்ஸ்ஃபார்மர்ல என்ன பண்ணிருப்போம், we are just using a transformer எதுக்காக யூஸ் பண்ணிருப்போம்னா பவர் டிரான்ஸ்ஃபர்மேஷன் பவர் டிரான்ஸ்ஃபருக்காக டிரான்ஸ்மிஷன் லைன்ல யூஸ் பண்ணிருப்போம். But this the same transformer we could able to what could I say work it as a measuring device நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ணிக்க முடியும். That's called metering purpose யூஸ் பண்ணிக்க முடியும். Right? Just got an idea. So நம்ம எல்லாமே இந்த third module full we are just only discussing about metering system. அப்ப என்ன பண்ண போறோம், இந்த transformer we are just going to act as a meter ஆவும் யூஸ் பண்ணிக்க முடியும். So how it would be? So we're just going to see, right? So this is one more instrument that's called instrument transformer. So we could use that transformer also, we could able to act as a meter ஆவும் நம்ம யூஸ் பண்ணிக்க முடியும், right? We'll see one by one. For example, low voltage gets no issues. For example, 440 voltage or 230 voltage, right? No issues. You could easily use a small voltmeter or meter. You could able to measure voltage as well as current flow. For example, in a high power tension line, so for example, 11 kV or 230 kV, right? So kilovolt, right? So இதெல்லாம் நம்ம measure பண்ணணும்னா that meter size would be also it should be very very high, right? So இப்போ மீட்டரோட சைஸ் இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணோம்னா definitely that meter manufacturing cost it should be very high in transmission line. So for that purpose, what actually they're just doing, right? They're just going to step down that voltage from higher level to lower level from the with the help of turns ratio, and they're just going to measure it. So this is what important. So it's very with the help of turns ratio, they're just going to step down the voltage as well as current level into a very minimum level scale to in the form of measuring devices, right? So அதுதான் அவங்க என்ன பண்ணிருப்பாங்க, we're just going to go with it. So very important topic term is now turns ratio, right? So turns ratio in the sense the input side it will be very high voltage, very high current. In my output turn, secondary turn, it will be secondary part, right? So secondary part it will be in a form of very very low, right? So with the help of turns ratio, we'll see one by one. Right, so we'll have two types of very important two things, right? So potential transformer, that's called voltage transformer, current transformer, right? And it's directly moving into current transformer. You people already used in my mini project. You have many people who have crossed these things, right? So this is a standard. So secondary it will be always 5 ampere, right? So secondary always will be, this is somewhat a standard thing, right? So it will be 5 ampere. So if you want to change the secondary current in the sense, right? So definitely you need to what could I say? We need to change this entire turns ratio, right? Primary as well as secondary. We need to change this entire ratio. Then you could be able to change this secondary value. Right? But in market, 5 ampere கொடுத்துட்டு இருக்காங்க. There will be a different ranges also there, 1 ampere, 2 ampere. But this is almost standard, right? To measure. So, and this is a very important as well as easiest thing, right? So anyone's going to give you and I'm going to go through. So actually what it's going to happen, right? So how it's going to be working, right? Simply there is a coil, right? So now this is a conductor. So this conductor it's carrying a current, right? So I is now current flowing. So how you could able to measure this current flow, right? So what actually they're just going to do, so they're just going to wind up winding on over this. It's not exactly, it's not a, there is no any physical contact between these two metal part, right? Now we'll have a meter over here, right? So there is no direct anyway I'm just going to show you an animation video, then you easily understood, right? So there is no direct physical contact between this coil over this conductor, right? So there is no physical contact. So whenever the current is now flowing inside this conductor, definitely it's going to be creating a magnetic flux lines in this around this conductor. Definitely this flux lines is now getting created due to the flow of current. Definitely this magnetic flux lines, right, which is developed by this flow of current, right? Definitely this flux lines is now associated with is going to be creating one more EMF, right? It will be going to getting created on my this coil winding over this thing, right? Definitely based upon this current flow, definitely that EMF is going to be generated on my this coil is directly proportional, definitely, right? So with these only I'm just going to calculate this current flow, right? So it's very simple, right? So electromagnetic induction principle only, right? So now I'll see an animation you could easily understood, right? So already நீங்களாம் well visual நீங்க understand பண்ணிருப்பீங்க, but that's why I'm moving a little fast. I'm not going to explain much detail. Just 1 minute animation. It's not more than that because we people already know this clearly, right? That's why. So this is one more biggest and good company, E10, right? It's E10 Power Technologies. It's a good company.
And define what a CT or current transformer is. A CT is a current measuring device that is used to safely reproduce a low-level current that accurately represents a higher current level.
So this is my hollow core. Actually, in this hollow core, once we just to unscrew this parts, right? Once just unscrew this, this entire body is now covered with my n number of tones. It will be coil மட்டும் தான் இருக்கும். That's n number of iron core மேல. They are just now having n number of windings. So இதுக்கு நடுவுல என்ன பண்ண போறேன்? I'm just going to insert my current carrying conductor. Once you just to insert my current carrying conductor in this thing, definitely there is a EMF is getting introduced in my this total coil. So in the coil, I'm just going to connect my ammeter, and definitely my ammeter is going to be measuring that current flow, which is now flowing to this conductor, right?
For the purpose of metering and protection. Let's start with a simple explanation that describes the most common ways of calculating and measuring current using current transformers. By applying Maxwell's equation around a closed loop, secondary winding around the core. The primary winding of the CT, the main loop.
So this is one thing, right? So this is a current carrying conductor, and we are just seeing this, right? So the hollow core, the black covered, right? So covered with black color metal pot, right? So this one, once we just removed those black cover, right? So you could see this hollow core. In hollow core, என்ன இருக்கு winding. This is now I told that turns ratio, right? This much turns, right? Based upon this.
The primary winding that carries the main current is said to have a single loop or winding. The wire produces the magnetic field that drives the current on the secondary winding, which is used as the output of the CT. The current on the secondary winding is proportional to the current flowing through the center of the core. Typically, the secondary rating is 5 amps or 1 amp. For example,
so I already told that based upon manufacturer maybe customer requirement, you could able to have a secondary output, standard output based upon my requirement, right?
The secondary rating is 5 amps or 1 amp. For example, with a 1000 to 5 rating or a turns ratio of 200 to 1, when 1000 amps flows on the primary.
So this is one type of example, right? So if you're rating, it will be look like this, right? So 10,000, sorry, 1,000, 1,000 to 5 rating in the sense, right? So if you're just going to measure 1,000 ampere in the sense, right? For example, I already told that if for CT order maximum output is now 5 ampere, secondary terms, if you're just going to getting a 5 ampere as output in the sense, actual rating, right? So if you're just getting 5 ampere as output my CT, it is giving 5 ampere in the sense actual original measurement is now 1,000 ampere is just now flowing into this my conductor. So this is what I read. It's modeled. If you're just going to measuring 5 ampere over here in the sense, definitely in the conductor எவ்வளவு ampere போயிட்டு இருக்கு 1000 ampere போயிட்டு இருக்கு. For example, I'm just getting 1 ampere over here in the sense அப்ப இங்க எவ்வளவு போயிட்டு இருக்கு 100 ampere, right? So this is what one more small calculation, right? So this is called turns ratio. So that's called 200 to 1 ratio, right? So இப்போ 1 ampere எனக்கு கிடைச்சதுன்னா அந்த கண்டக்டர்ல 2 ampere போயிட்டு இருக்குன்னு அர்த்தம். எனக்கு 5 ampere போகுதுன்னா அந்த கண்டக்டர்ல ஆக்சுவலா 1000 ampere போயிட்டு இருக்குன்னு அர்த்தம். This is what my we are just going to measuring a very high value with the help of these measuring devices, right? So with the help of this is why it's called, it's one type of, it's called a metering system.
Primary circuit, 5 amps would flow on the secondary winding. Current transformers are primarily used for metering and protection applications and come in various sizes, shapes, and.
So these are the different types of varieties of CT will be available in market. So this is what a square type, right? Square type, hollow type, and split type, right? So wire type and clamp type. This is what you people already seen this clamp type in our electrical machines lab. These are some clamp type, right? So these are the called static device. Once it's now fixed பண்ணிட்டீங்கன்னா you couldn't able to move it. But clamp meter we could able testing use பண்ணிக்கலாம் as a dynamic testing we could able to use, right? So இது எல்லாமே once I just what could I say in the CT எல்லாமே just going to connect it with my what could I say in my metering system, right? So definitely the meter is going to be calculating, right?
Ratings. CTs can be solid core, split core.
This is called split core, right? So you could it's going to pass it over.
CTs can be solid core.
This is a what could I say split core. We could have that two. We could able to easily remove this two end, and we could able to connect it easily. It's quite, it's called split core.
Split core or clamp-on style.
This is why clamp type. So it's like a scissor type, right? So you could able to measure at instant time. So right, running time like ஒரு meter ஒரு motor ஓடிட்டுனா directly could able to plug it and you could able to find it, right? So with the help of this scissoring operation, right, it's going to have like this, right?
For both low voltage and medium voltage applications. Solid core CTs are generally more permanent and are most commonly found for metering and protection in switchboards, panel boards, and switch.
So these are some very important, very basic important things, right? So metering எதுக்காக யூஸ் பண்ணிட்டு போறோம்னா switching boards, panel boards, switch gears, right? So in back endல பார்த்தீங்கன்னா switch gear system, right? Panel switch gearing system. So with automatic switching, automatic operation, right? So definitely I need to measure the current flow which is now running through the conductor, right? Definitely we need switching devices, right? Switching devices in the sense not power devices, switch gear in the form of, right? Bus bar bus bar switches. So definitely for the purpose, right, full automation purpose, we need PT and CT, right? So for fully automation your power system, definitely we need CT and PT, right? So these are some metering system. It's now meter director metering code is kadayade. This is called some assistive devices for metering system, right? So CT and PT is now it's going to be give you more input to that meter system. So that's why it's also called one more metering important thing, right? So and PT we are just going to see by tomorrow, right? I'm not going to much detail into my working operation. We people already studied, that's why I'm not going to go with it, but simply I'm talking about only going to give you about application side only, right? So you people already studied, that's why I'm going to moving into this direction, application side, right? Metering application side, right? And will any latecomers, anyone's going to pause it over here, and we'll meet by forthcoming classes with PT, right? So any latecomers for attendance, right?